Everyone is talking about interest rates.
So we recently attended a training where we talked all about interest rates historically, and there's some important keys that we really think are worth sharing with you today.
So let's talk some perspectives and historically where interest rates have fallen over the last few decades. So in 1981, they were actually at an all-time high around 17%.
Oof.
And that was because of really bad inflation.
And then around 1990, we were down to 10%. And then in 2000, it was around 8%. Since then, it's been going down and down. In 2010, 4 to 5%. And we all know right around COVID, 2 to 3%, we were finding interest rates that were at historical lows. And now we're at about 6 to 8%.
Yep. And really during COVID, they were artificially low. And then when inflation started to creep back up, the interest rates went up as well. And if you look at it historically, perspective is key. Instead of being really high, like you might consider them just since those post-COVID numbers, historically, they're actually pretty average.
And it's hard because for the last 2 decades, you're feeling like, well, gosh, 6 feels so high, 8 feels so high. But the reality is when you look at it from a bigger perspective, it's natural for us to feel that way, but also you can see that it's a pretty good rate. And when we're also talking about it, we always say, marry the home, date the rate. And what we mean by that is rates can change. Now, when we look at these numbers, do we think they're going to go back down to 2 and 3? We don't, but we say fall in love with the house. And you want to make sure that even if that rate doesn't go down, you can still feel comfortable with that mortgage payment. Now, if it does, you can always refinance, but you want to make sure you're comfortable. But we want to make sure you're finding the house that you want.
And the cost of waiting is real. So that's why it's even more important to, once you find the house, to jump on it, because home prices are continuing to rise. So if you wait for interest rates to fall, which may or may not happen, you might be paying more in the long run.
So the key message here is focus on what you can control, making sure that you are being really smart about your credit to get the best rate. Thinking about stronger down payment. There's even buy down options that we will talk about in another video. If you have everything that you can control, you do what you can. If you need to shop around to find that lender, do what makes sense for you. But waiting right now for an interest rate to go down is not something that we're advising, because we really do feel like when you look at the grand perspective, these rates aren't all that bad. And we want to set you up for success in the future to not be waiting and then potentially having that higher home price.
All right, that's all we have for you today on Friday with Friends. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, we're here to help with all things real estate.
Bye.
Bye.